Okay, hey, it's Zach here. So, this is take 2 of this video I'm trying to do. I know that I get long-winded and crap, so I'm trying to keep this short, but basically the idea is, so I made a vlog earlier today, and it was right after all the stuff at the Capitol happened. It was maybe like an hour after I even found out about it. It was probably like 3, no, I made the vlog around 4:30. And the way that I kind of experience things, like big emotions, usually are just delayed reaction. I kind of chew on them a little bit. So I kind of mentioned it in my other vlog. I was also upset about Alexei dying, which is not great, and some other stuff. And so the more that I went back and looked on Facebook and looked on Snap and Insta, the more the reality of the Capitol building stuff kind of set in. And so right off the bat, I'm going to tell you this video is going to be, well, I've got 38 minutes of battery, so I'm going to try and fit it into that. But it's going to be political, and it's going to be a little mostly psychological kind of stuff. I'm not a psychologist off the bat. I've said that before. That's not me. But or I don't have any formal training, but I like to still make connections, I guess, based off stuff I see, or at least I think I see here. And so I saw a lot of stuff on Facebook that got me riled up. It just kind of, you know, it's like you get pissed off about this stuff, and so now that it's been a few hours, I'm pissed off about this. Like I'm not happy. I'm at least this is emotional for me. And I thought about posting on Facebook, but that's always like a fist fight in slow motion, and nothing really usually gets done, or people don't tend to say, "Wow, you have such a good point." Most of the time, it's usually just a dumpster fire with people fighting in slow motion in it. And so I thought I would love to jump into some of those, but it's not going to do any good. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to talk about the things. I'm going to talk about what happened and why I think the reasonings are that it did, besides the obvious. So what happened? Today, a bunch of people who support Trump and feel that he should have been rightfully elected, but was not, protested outside the Capitol building, and that wasn't enough. And so then they broke into the Capitol building, and they made it to the floor of the House, and there's pictures of them like posing with statues, and there's somebody like in the vice president's spot up on the dais, and the lady got shot, and it's a huge deal because these people were like flooding in. Like I said, this is going to be political, so these are my opinions. You don't have to agree with them. It doesn't matter if you do. If you don't, I'd prefer a reason why you think that I'm wrong, or what you think in that kind of method, if anybody disagrees with me or agrees with me. But so that was the general gist of it. It started out as a protest, from what it seems like, and it became much more. The biggest thing that pisses me off about this, and pisses off a lot of other people too, is that there was a Black Lives Matter protest before there, and they had, as this Snapchat person or TikToker put it, there was enough guards out there to make it look like they were going to fight the Avengers. And the argument is, well, then a bunch of white people showed up and somehow everybody got inside. And the thing, so let's be realistic here too. I prefer to not just fly off the cuff on this. Maybe, you know, since the Black Lives Matter protest, I don't know. I don't know if it was planned. They must have had enough time to show up. I know around that time everybody was thinking that there was going to be protests everywhere, because there kind of were. But, I mean, today was also the day when they were going to certify that Biden is president, so that probably should have been a red flag too. Maybe something was going to go down. Either way, my point for that is maybe security was different this day, and for whatever reason they just didn't have the people there like they were thinking they were going to, or whatever. I don't know, but the fact is that, yeah, like every Black Lives Matter protest that was in a major city seemed to run into a lot of issues. Maybe not everyone. I mean, maybe that's a stretch to say. But you could say there were a lot of examples of it where it seemed ridiculous. Or, if you think that that was the correct way that protests like that should be dealt with, why wasn't this one dealt the same way, would be a question. Either way, that's kind of what happened. And like I said, I thought about maybe going on Facebook and posting, throwing my thing out there. I'm sure this is just another drop in the bucket of videos that are out there, but this is my take. And when I think about things, I like to problem solve, and even if not that, I like to play armchair psychologist and think about why maybe these things happen. And so I've got this little list, and I'm going to try and keep this a lot more brief than my other one was and try and go in order. I'm going to break this down, though, from what I think my thoughts are on this. The overall arcing thing that I think happened here is that the people who went in felt unconditionally that what they were doing was right. I'm not saying they were. I don't think they were. I don't think that this is acceptable behavior when you disagree with the government, is to just go and break into a place like that. And the obvious question is like, well, how do you feel about Black Lives Matter? And to be honest, my personal jury is still out on that. I've heard good arguments from the liberal side or the lefter side about why rioting was okay and why rioting wasn't, and I genuinely do not have a clear winner between that because I think I've heard both. I've heard good points for both, so I can't say on that. But I can say that I do agree that breaking into a federal building and demanding change, because that's what you feel like should happen, is probably not the right way when it's a situation like this. Back in the day when we were trying to secede from Britain, yeah, I guess, when is revolution appropriate? I don't know, that's a bigger question. In this case, I hold that I don't think Trump won, and I don't think he was cheated, and I don't think he lost it, or I don't think he lost it incorrectly. I think he lost the damn election, and I think he's like a little crybaby, essentially, trying to figure out every single thing that he can do to still make it work. And it reminds me of, seriously, like a 5-year-old who's just trying to like stay up past his bedtime, essentially, like, well, maybe I can watch one more commercial, or I just love this commercial, I just want to watch 5 more seconds, or you know what I mean, just trying to find any freaking way to do this. But not only that, I'm getting off topic, but also trying to just blatantly gaslight and vehemently deny things because it works in his favor, right? Different topic. In this case, going back to it, the people who were on his side thought what they were doing was right. So what my question is why did they think they were right? Why, if you're somebody looking from the outside of this, maybe you're a complete moderate, maybe you're dead center, and I like to think now that I am a moderate liberal, a moderate left. I'm definitely not super left. I'm more on the, hey, let's find things that overlap between all sides and see what we can agree on, and maybe try and work on the things that we don't, but give and take is kind of where I'm at. So my idea, or my question is, why did this happen? Because I think they were right. So why did they think they were right? The analogy I'm going to use is, it's a little bit tough to follow, but analogies are the way that I understand things myself. So the analogy I'm going to use is, imagine a parent and a kid. And the kid, well, not a kid. Imagine a parent, and when I think of somebody's offspring, I say their kid. Imagine somebody who's like 17. They're in high school, and the parent is going to leave for a weekend, and so they tell the kid, hey, the car's in the driveway, I'm getting a ride to the airport, don't take my car. I know there's a party this weekend, don't take my car. Kid says, okay. Parent leaves, comes back. For the sake of this argument, we're going to say the kid did not take the car. Now, think of a stereotypical situation. I guess you could think of an overplayed one on TV, but think of just parents that you knew of your friends or whatever. I'm in my 30s, so this is kind of the parents I think of. Some of them, not all of them. But it's like, imagine that the parent comes back, and according to what they did when they were younger, maybe they would have taken the car. They think in their head that 100% my kid took this car, and I've got to catch him on it so that I can discipline him. But the first thing is, I'm not going to be hard on him. I just want him to fess up so that I know he's, going to be true whenever I ask him a question, whatever. So he comes home, kid didn't take the car, and he says, hey, did you take the car? The kid, truthfully, because that's what he did, or he didn't, says, no, I didn't. Parents like, okay, says okay. Obviously doesn't believe the kid, because in the parent's mind, it's like, this is what I would have done, so I'm pretty sure that kid took the car. I just need to make them confess, essentially. And maybe you might not think this is a real thing, but I can tell you, I'm pretty sure this would be a situation, at least with my friends growing up and their parents. So it's like, basically what happens is, it starts out as a kind of like, oh, he didn't take the car, but I want to make sure he comes and says it, that he does, so that I can, for one, two motivations are behind this. I believe there's an unconscious one that anybody would have when they want to have confirmation of something that they're sure of. They want to know it. It's like if somebody dinged your car and you're pretty sure it was the neighbor, but they just keep saying no, but like, let's say that you had video footage of them doing it and they still don't fess up and they just vehemently deny it. It's like there's that unconscious part of you that wants them. You want to get the gratification and the satisfaction of hearing them say, yes, I did do this. So there's that. That's the unconscious part, I think, in this situation. The second part is the conscious part. They want to be able to be a good parent by showing their kid that they're not a gulag warden or something, but they still want they want to teach their kid honesty, and since they know that the kid took the car, they want to have the kid come forward of their own volition and then give them a light punishment, but know that the kid was truthful in the end. Okay, so where's the problem with this? Well, the kid didn't take the car, so now it's turning into essentially what the Inquisition was all about, which is doing more and more until finally the kid says they did, or whatever, even though they didn't. So that's kind of the situation. But we're not to that point in the analogy yet. So let's say that the father or the parent keeps, throughout the week, keeps asking, like, hey, you sure you didn't take my car? I'm pretty sure I saw it move. I thought it was moved from when I left. It's like, no, I didn't get it. Okay, so what's happening now is the more that this happens, the parent has this expectation, this model in their head of like, I know my kid took this, and the more that they say they didn't, the more it feeds into what I would expect somebody who's lying to say. Right? So the more that the kid truthfully says, no, I didn't do it, the more it feeds the flames of the parent who's like, well, now I know he's lying because he just will not come forward, so he must really be lying. Maybe that's not the right way to say it, but essentially the parent has this model in their head, like I said, and these things feed into it. It's like, if my kid was lying, what would they say? Well, the kid's going to do all the things that would happen if they were lying because they're telling the truth. These things overlap. But since the parent has this in their head that that's the case, it just keeps feeding it and feeding it. And every time it does, I think it makes it worse. And by worse, I mean more steadfast in that they're right and all of that. And so that's what keeps going. And you see where this is going. So when I think that the people that stormed the Capitol building, why they did this, I think it's because they thought they were right. Why did they think they were right? Because of the same situation. I think they had the conclusion in mind, and they were told, I don't know for sure, I didn't count the votes, but I'm pretty damn sure from all the evidence and all the court cases and everything else that's come out that Trump did not get enough votes. So they're told, it's like, hey, did Trump win? No. It's like, well, I know he won because he told us that he won. He knew that he won, and we trust him, so we know we won. So there's the conclusion. Okay, what are the facts? Not enough votes. Well, that must be a lie because he obviously won. And it's not, I wish I could say I was exaggerating this, but I've watched those videos of Trump saying that, and he said, we won. It was stolen. And those are like his exact words. It's like, we clearly won. This was a situation where the votes were taken away from me or whatever he says, but he just flat out says that. And so people believe him because, for other reasons I'll go into later, but essentially you keep finding more things that go around. Let's say this is like the straight line, the most straightforward point to the conclusion, the simplest thing, right? And in this case it's probably the right one. So it's like, well, this isn't right. So then what else must it be? Why isn't he? Well, it must be not enough votes. Well, something's wrong with the votes. It must be a conspiracy. It must be QAnon or whatever. And it just keeps going. And every time you go out another layer, it's like the parent getting that steadfastness reinforced when the kid says, no, he didn't do it. Because in that mindset, it's like you're expecting all the things. What would somebody say if they really were a conspiracy about the election? Oh, that there weren't enough votes. There must be a reason. And all these reasons that keep coming up are the ones that keep getting denied by the government or the rest of the people who are like sane, because it's probably the truth, right? You probably didn't have enough votes, so okay, that just makes me angrier and more steadfast that I'm right. And then it keeps going and going and going and going until the point where it's, at some point, I think the reason why they're right goes away consciously, just that they're right. think of something that you know of where you have a strong opinion about it. It's a belief. And then think of what the original reason was why you felt that. Maybe it's something that's really specific that you can remember. Maybe if you're a vegetarian, you remember watching a cow get killed right in front of you, and so you claimed, or what would you say, claim veganism, decided to be vegan or vegetarian. Maybe it's something specific, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's something like when people have fears, when they say, well, why are you afraid of water? I don't know, I'm just afraid. Well, there's a reason, you just don't remember it, because after a while the reason why goes away. It's just you remember the end result is that you're afraid of it, and with fear it's different because there's repression and all of that. But in this case I think it's similar. It's like, I have thoughts about why I'm agnostic, but if you told me right off the bat, or if you asked me right off the bat, Zach, why? I'd be like, well, it's because of Nietzsche and the philosophers in my 19th century philosophy class. Well, what were the specific things they said? Like, dude, I don't know anymore. I just remember that at the time I scrutinized them and they all made sense, so the end result was that, yes, I feel agnostic because of these reasons, but I couldn't tell you the exact reasons, what the quotes were, not all of them anyway. So I think it's similar to that. So that fuels why these people think they're right. And so the more, I don't know what you call these things, the factors, the go-arounds, the more that these stack up, the more intense the righteousness gets, I think. I mean, because you could use old religion for this or whatever, like instances of religion. You could use it for anything, really, where it's that same situation. It's like the more that you're denied, that you're trying to really show people the truth, and you get something that you know isn't the truth, even though it probably is, the more you're going to keep getting like worked up about it. And so I think that mixes in with my next topic, which is how sports teams, I'm going to call it the sports team mentality, and I'm going to relate this to religion too. It's not religion's fault in this, it's human behavior. So when I was younger, I mentioned this before, but I was Catholic. We had one Catholic church in the whole town, and there was like 1 million Lutheran denominations, Protestant denominations in town. And so what that ended up being was, we were kids, but it didn't matter because all we knew was, you're this and I'm this, and so we have to give you shit. And that was just how it is. And I saw that with religion, and it wasn't bad, it was just we gave each other crap about it. But it was still a mentality that way. But I see it the most with sports teams, because think of people that get absolutely insane about rivalries. Like, it starts with like, okay, I like this team. And then it kind of, barrels up or whatever over the years. And then it gets to the point for some people where they're just absolutely insane when their team loses, or not even that. It's like, if you get two people like that who are arguing about the same team, they get so worked up that eventually, it's not about sports. It's not about the team. The fact that they're talking about different teams are now the vehicle for expression of the energy, because they're not going to back down. And it's just an arbitrary thing. You could do it about anything. But sports teams are what I see it with the most, where people just get irrationally worked up about stuff. It's like, they forget it's a game, but it's all about that loyalty and that affinity. And I think you can see where I'm going with this, because it applies to politics as well. They always, I heard a great quote that said, if you want to lose friends, talk about religion or politics, because they're the same. It's always the same argument. It's based on subjective feelings. It's not necessarily about, people will argue things, but they'll usually say, I believe this, and so this is why. And it's hard to put an objective thing behind that when it's a belief. But anyway, so you mix that in now with conservatives and liberals, and I would say you can even, this is a different topic, but I think you can even split that out another factor, where it's not just the left and the right, it's now the extreme left and the extreme right, right? So I'm assuming these people were extreme right. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I don't know enough about the actual people, specifically who were there to say if they were. I'm assuming they're the extreme right, but I could be wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm open to that. Either way, what they did was extreme, so we can say that. But it ties into this sports mentality, because I think of this polarization has always kind of been there, but it's been like we can still at least reach across the aisle. Like, my example is McCain and Obama. That's a different topic again too, but I think what happened with that was McCain tried to reach across the aisle, and the media took the worst possible move and turned it into like a buddy holding hand or a buddy ship friendship where it's like they're holding hands, skipping down is kind of what it was presented as, which is stupid. But they tried. But then so after when Obama was going for his second term, I think it was a second term, you start to see this division even more. Like they're really trying to be, if you're conservative, really you got to think this against the left and whatever. And so if it started back then and it really boiled over during now, the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, it's been constant. It's just been like more and more and more. And so when you get that, it strengthens that team mentality that now it's us against them, it's us against them. If you like this, if they like this, you can't like this. And Hatfields and McCoys, and I'm down to 5 minutes because my thing jumped from 10 to 5, which is dumb. So you get that, which then factors in. So now I think you have the idea that I talked about why they're right, why that belief is that they're right, is guiding, it's driving where this vehicle goes. And then you have this team mentality that's the engine that's pushing it. It's saying, hey, this is us, we got to do this. But at the end of the day, they think they're right. I genuinely think that they genuinely think they're trying to save America, and that's where their zeal comes from. I'm not saying they're right. I completely disagree with what they're doing. But if you step into their shoes, that's what I expect you would find, is that they have the tenacity to think that what they're doing is the right thing. They think that they've seen all the reasons why we're on a crash course for whatever reason, and they are doing this to correct that. And they think that, okay, well, I think it's the idea of like, we have to break some eggs to make an omelet. It's like, if I wouldn't do this normally, but this is the fate of the country and all of our ideals at stake. We have to do this. I think that's their mentality. That's what I would guess. I don't know. But I mean, think of it, so I don't think they're right. I want to state that. I can't say that enough. I don't think that they're right. And I don't think Trump won the election and was this huge freaking conspiracy of every single thing that could possibly come up to explain why he didn't win it is all true. It's like, it's not, if I said that right. I don't think he did it. Or I don't think he won. But imagine for a second, suspend disbelief if he did. Or if it was the other way around. If Biden got elected and it was a conspiracy against him and Trump took office, like, I'm not trying to put out there that everybody on the left would go and do what these people are doing, but I am saying think of the feeling that you would have, that tenacity, if it actually was justified, think of that rage that you have in there, and that's probably what they're feeling because they think they actually are right. And it's like, I think that's why they went to this far, because now they have become extremists, in my opinion, because they did an extreme thing, which is fucked up. Like, and the fact that that people went in there and did that, and they're not like being tased or whatever, is absolutely insane. But I think that whole thing is the basis of my argument. I tried to go really quick. I've got less than a minute left. But I think that got out what I was trying to say. They thought they were right. They think they have the right thing going, and they're doing the right thing, and they're completely not for various reasons. But I think at the heart of it, I think that's the psychology, instead of just us looking at it or anybody else looking at it and saying they're crazy. So now my camera's really going to die. So feel free to debate me or tell me why I'm wrong. Please, if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, thanks for watching if you watched this whole thing.